Let's get right into it. Number 9. The frozen food fright. You've probably spent years strolling past the freezer aisle with your nose in the air, convinced that anything encased in ice is a nutritional wasteland. You think fresh means a berry picked this morning, but unless you live inside a commercial greenhouse, that fresh blueberry has been sitting in a truck, a warehouse, and a fluorescent-lit shelf for 2 weeks, slowly bleeding vitamins like a popped balloon. Meanwhile, frozen fruits are picked at their absolute peak and flash frozen faster than a politician changes their mind. This process locks in the nutrients, meaning that bag of frozen mango is often more nutritionally dense than the fresh one wilting in your fruit bowl. By avoiding frozen food to be a purist, you're just paying more money for fewer antioxidants and more food waste. Your body doesn't care if the raspberry was chilly 10 minutes ago, it just wants the anthocyanins. Number 8. The soy scare. For years, men have been terrified that eating a block of tofu will magically turn them into a different biological entity, thanks to the phytoestrogens in soy. You've probably heard that soy will mess with your hormones and ruin your gym gains. But here's the irony. Phytoestrogens are thousands of times weaker than actual human estrogen, and they can actually block the real, bad estrogens from docking in your cells. In reality, soy is a complete protein that's been linked to lower rates of prostate and breast cancer. Avoiding it because you're afraid of feminization is a scientific misunderstanding of epic proportions. You're skipping out on high-quality protein and heart-protecting isoflavones because you believed a meme from 2012. Basically, your muscles and your heart are suffering because of a chemical campfire story. Number 7. The garlic ghosting. If you're avoiding garlic because you're afraid of vampire breath or a slightly spicy stomach, you are officially sacrificing your immune system at the altar of social etiquette. Garlic isn't just a flavor enhancer, it's a biological weapon against high blood pressure and systemic inflammation. It contains allicin, a compound that's only created when you crush the clove. It's the plant's way of saying, "Don't eat me," but our bodies respond by making our arteries more flexible and our hearts more resilient. By skipping the garlic to stay polite, you're missing out on a natural antibiotic that's been used since the pyramids were built. You're choosing a slightly fresher-smelling mouth over a cardiovascular system that functions like a well-oiled machine. Basically, you're letting your dating life dictate your life expectancy, and your white blood cells are bored because of it. Number 6. The shellfish shaming. For a long time, we treated shrimp and lobster like they were the trash collectors of the ocean, filled with nothing but cholesterol and bad vibes. You might have been told to skip the prawns if you want to keep your heart from seizing up. In reality, shellfish are basically nature's multivitamins, packed with zinc, selenium, and B12 nutrients that most of us are desperately lacking. They contain astaxanthin, an antioxidant so powerful it makes your cells feel like they've just been to a luxury spa. Avoiding shellfish because you're worried about fat is a tragedy, considering they are almost pure protein and minerals. You're essentially turning down a biological upgrade because you're afraid of a sea creature that's 90% water and 10% pure health. Your thyroid is literally begging for the iodine you're leaving on the platter. Number 5. The mushroom mystery. Imagine being a fungus that can literally breathe, communicate through underground networks, and manufacture vitamin D from sunlight, only to be pushed off a plate because you're mushy. People avoid mushrooms because they think they're just garnish with no real value, but they are actually biological powerhouses. They contain beta-glucans, which are like a boot camp for your immune system, teaching your white blood cells how to hunt down pathogens. They are the only non-animal source of vitamin D in the produce aisle. By skipping them, you're missing out on a unique class of antioxidants that protect your brain from oxidative stress. Essentially, you're ignoring a natural pharmacy because you had one bad experience with a canned button mushroom in 1994. Number 4. The fruit sugar panic. You've probably seen some self-proclaimed wellness guru on TikTok holding a grape like it's a tiny purple vial of poison, claiming that the fructose in fruit is making you fat and inflamed. It's the ultimate smart-dumb argument. Yes, your liver processes fructose, but there is a massive difference between chugging a high-fructose corn syrup soda and eating an actual apple. When you eat fruit, the sugar is wrapped in a protective suit of fiber, vitamins, and polyphenols that tell your body to slow down and digest properly. By avoiding fruit to save your insulin, you're essentially boycotting the very antioxidants that keep your DNA from fraying like an old rope. Your brain runs on glucose, and your gut runs on fiber. Stopping yourself from eating a peach because of sugar is like refusing to put gas in your car because you're afraid of the liquid. You aren't avoiding a toxin, you're just depriving your cells of a natural multivitamin. Number 3. The Red Meat Menace. Imagine being told for half a century that a steak is basically a ticking time bomb sitting on your dinner plate. You've probably spent years eyeing the ribeye with the same suspicion you'd give a suspicious suitcase left at an airport. But here's the plot twist. High-quality, unprocessed red meat is one of the most nutrient-dense substances on the planet. It's packed with vitamin B12, which keeps your nerves from fraying like a cheap charging cable, and bioavailable iron that actually lets your blood carry oxygen. While you were busy eating plant-based patties held together by industrial seed oils and chemical prayers, you were missing out on creatine and carnosine compounds that protect your brain from aging and keep your muscles from turning into decorative streamers. The real villain was never the cow. It was the sugary bun, the giant soda, and the deep-fried trans fats that usually tag along for the ride. Refusing a grass-fed steak to save your heart is like refusing to put gas in your car because you're afraid of the exhaust. Your body is a high-performance machine. Give it the iron it's screaming for. Number 2. Coffee jitters. If you've been trying to cleanse your system by swapping your morning cup of sanity for a lukewarm glass of lemon water, please stop. You aren't just tired, you're depriving your cells of a dark, caffeinated shield against the reaper. Contrary to the coffee stunts your growth propaganda your grandma fed you, coffee is actually a massive source of antioxidants in the Western diet, mostly because we don't eat enough vegetables, but we'll take what we can get. It's been linked to a lower risk of Parkinson's, type 2 diabetes, and even certain types of, I'd rather not have that, cancers. When you drink coffee, you aren't just vibrating at a frequency that allows you to see through time, you're bathing your liver in protective compounds. Ignoring coffee to be healthier is like refusing to wear a seatbelt because you're afraid it'll wrinkle your shirt. Your heart might be racing, but it's racing toward a longer life expectancy, probably so it can spend more money on lattes. Number 1. Chocolate guilt. If you've been denying yourself a square of dark chocolate because you think it's a cheat meal, you're technically committing a crime against your own longevity. We're not talking about the milk chocolate-covered sugar bars found in gas station aisles. We're talking about the bitter, dark stuff that makes your face scrunch up a little. Dark chocolate is loaded with flavonoids, which are basically tiny biological bodyguards that improve blood flow and lower blood pressure. It's one of the few foods that actually makes your blood vessels relax, which is a fancy way of saying it keeps you from turning into a walking tension headache. By avoiding it, you're missing out on a massive dose of magnesium, the chill-out mineral that helps you sleep and keeps your heart rhythm from sounding like a drum solo. Essentially, eating dark chocolate is a medical necessity disguised as a dessert. Everyday habits that quietly shorten your life. Number 11. The Indoor Air Stagnation. You haven't opened a window in 3 days because you have climate control, but you're basically breathing in a soup of your own dead skin cells, off-gassing furniture chemicals, and carbon dioxide. Stale indoor air can have concentrations of pollutants 5 times higher than the outdoors, leading to sick building syndrome. Your brain is struggling to function in a low-oxygen, high-toxin environment, which is why you have that persistent brain fog that even a 4th coffee can't fix. You're essentially living inside a giant, plastic-lined Tupperware container, and your lungs are tired of the recycled scenery. Number 10. The salt shaker obsession. You treat salt like it's fairy dust that makes life worth living, but your arteries see it as a hostile takeover. When you dump half a shaker of sodium onto your fries, your body has to hold onto extra water just to dilute the stuff, which increases your blood volume. This turns your veins into high-pressure fire hoses, pounding against your delicate organ tissues with every heartbeat. You aren't just seasoning your dinner. You're giving your cardiovascular system a relentless, high-pressure workout it never asked for. Basically, you're pickling yourself from the inside out. Number 9. The loneliness tax. You might think staying home and avoiding humans is a great way to save money and energy, but your DNA begs to differ. Evolutionarily speaking, being alone meant you were about to be eaten by something with more teeth than you, so your brain reacts to chronic isolation by staying in a state of hypervigilance. This means your body is constantly marinating in low-grade inflammation, waiting for a threat that never comes. Research suggests that being socially disconnected is as bad for your longevity as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Your immune system literally weakens because it thinks it doesn't have a pack to protect it. You're a social primate trying to live like a hermit crab, and your internal biology is essentially wilting from the lack of a decent conversation or a high five. Number 8. The Professional Worrier. Some people have hobbies. You have what-if scenarios. You spend your Tuesday afternoons mentally rehearsing an argument that will never happen, or worrying about a bill that isn't due for 3 weeks. Your brain doesn't know the difference between a real tiger and a hypothetical bankruptcy, so it releases the same flood of cortisol for both. Living in a state of perpetual high alert is like keeping your car's engine redlined while it's parked in the garage. You're wearing out your gaskets and frying your neural circuits over imaginary problems, effectively aging your brain in fast forward. Number 7. The Desk Lunch Depression. You think eating your salad over your keyboard makes you a dedicated employee, but it actually just makes you a stressed-out mess with crumbs in your escape key. When you don't physically change your environment for a break, your brain never exits work mode, meaning your digestive system is trying to process nutrients while your nervous system is still bracing for a Zoom call. This leads to poor nutrient absorption and a brain that feels like it's been fried in a pan. You're denying yourself the micro-recovery moments that keep your heart rate variability in the healthy zone, effectively turning your entire 8-hour shift into one long, continuous stress event. Number 6. The bright light bathing. We already talked about phones, but your entire house is currently lit up like a high-security prison at 10 at night. Human beings evolved to wind down by the warm, dim glow of a fire, not the clinical, aggressive glare of overhead LED bulbs that mimic the high noon sun. This artificial daylight keeps your awake hormones surging long after they should have clocked out. You're living in a perpetual state of biological noon, which messes with everything from your digestion to your cell repair. You aren't just staying up late. You're effectively telling your DNA that nighttime doesn't exist, and your body is losing the ability to fix itself while you wait for the next episode to autoplay. Number 5. The liquid calorie illusion. You think because it's wet, it doesn't count, but your liver begs to differ. Whether it's a healthy green juice that contains more sugar than a literal pack of donuts, or a fancy soda that's basically a chemistry set in a can, your body is being hit with a metabolic tidal wave. Because there's no fiber to slow things down, your blood sugar hits the ceiling before you've even finished the straw. Your pancreas has to go into emergency mode to pump out insulin, while your liver is forced to turn that excess fructose into fat faster than a factory on double shift. You're essentially waterboarding your internal organs with syrup and wondering why you feel like a sluggish potato by mid-afternoon. Number 4. The Earbud Blast. You like your music loud enough to feel it in your teeth, but your inner ear hair cells are currently screaming for mercy. These tiny cells don't regrow. Once you blast them into oblivion with 100 decibels of bass-boosted industrial techno, they're gone forever. Hearing loss is increasingly linked to cognitive decline and dementia because your brain has to work 10 times harder just to decode a conversation. You're essentially giving your brain a massive, unnecessary cognitive load because you wanted to pretend you were in a music video while walking to the grocery store. Number 3. The I'll rest when I'm dead mentality. This is the ultimate toxic productivity flex. You treat burnout like a badge of honor, fueled by 4 hours of sleep and pure spite. By ignoring your body's low battery warnings, you're forcing your system to run on emergency reserves that were never meant for daily use. This chronic overexertion suppresses your immune system, making you a walking playground for every virus in a 3-mile radius. You're not a hustler. You're just a biological machine that's overdue for a catastrophic engine failure because you refuse to change the oil. Number 2. Dehydration by choice. Your body is roughly 60% water, yet you treat it like a desert plant that insulted your ancestors. You've replaced H2O with brown bubbles, or dark bean water, and wonder why your brain feels like a dried-out sponge rattling around in a tin can. Even mild dehydration shrinks your brain tissue, literally making your gray matter pull away from the skull, which is why your head feels like it's being squeezed by a very angry toddler. Your kidneys are back there working overtime, trying to filter your blood with the consistency of maple syrup, while your skin starts to look like a topographical map of the Great Basin. By the time you actually feel thirsty, Your cells have been sending out SOS flares for hours. You're essentially trying to run a high-end water park with a leaky garden hose and a prayer. Number 1. The Midnight Snack Heist. It's midnight, the house is silent, and you are currently illuminated by the cold, judgmental glow of the refrigerator. You aren't even hungry. You're just bored and convinced that a slice of processed cheese wrapped around a pickle is the solution to your existential dread. When you eat at an hour meant for dreaming, you're basically forcing your digestive tract to pull an all-nighter. Your liver, which was supposed to be busy detoxing your system and regulating your cholesterol, now has to drop everything to deal with a sudden influx of sodium and saturated fat. This completely nukes your metabolic clock, leading to weight gain in all the places you'd rather not have it, and making your heart work twice as hard to process the late-night logistics. You're not treating yourself. You're effectively asking your stomach to do manual labor while it's trying to sleep. That's all for today. I'll be making similar videos in the future. Subscribe to see them.